Hello, and welcome back to the Healing Out Loud podcast. I'm your host, Paulie Speaks. I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of our new listeners to our healing platform. I am so glad that this podcast has found its way to you. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe, like, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Let's continue to make this world a better place. We're going to dive into today's topic, and it's recognizing victim syndrome and the power of boundaries. Now, healers, we all face challenges in life. Setbacks, disappointments, unfair situations, they're part of the human experience. We can't change that. But what happens when adversity becomes the defining narrative? What happens when hurt transforms into a self-perpetuating cycle of victimhood? This is where the concept of victim syndrome comes into play. And it's a concept that I've had to confront not just in others, but within myself. Victim syndrome at its core isn't about denying legitimate pain or suffering. It's about the tendency to consistently frame yourself as powerless. We blame every misfortune and we refuse to acknowledge our own personal responsibility. It's about wearing the mantle of victimhood as a shield, a way to garner sympathy and avoid accountability. I've witnessed this firsthand. And to be honest, I found myself caught in a web at times. It was easier for me to point the finger and say, this happened to me, rather than acknowledge, this is how I chose to respond. In those moments, it can feel comforting to relinquish control and surrender to the idea that I'm simply at the mercy of the circumstance. But that comfort is a mirage, a temporary reprieve that ultimately weakened and disempowered me. The problem with this mindset is that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you constantly see yourself as a victim, you're less likely to take action to change your situation. You become reactive rather than proactive. You're sitting around waiting for others to rescue you rather than taking charge of your own life. And worse, it can inadvertently create the very conditions that perpetuate the perceived victimhood. Now, this is where the critical concept of boundaries come into the picture. Imagine boundaries as an invisible line we draw around ourselves. These lines define what is acceptable and what isn't. They're about protecting our emotional, mental, and even physical well-being. Healers establishing healthy boundaries can ironically be seen as selfish. You want to know why it's selfish or even uncaring? It's because those who benefit from our lack of boundaries now view us as selfish and uncaring. But in reality, boundaries are essential for healthy relationships and personal growth. For me, learning to set boundaries has been a journey of self-discovery. It meant recognizing my own patterns of people-pleasing and the discomfort I felt when I had to say no. It meant acknowledging where I was giving away my power, often in the hope of avoiding conflict. It was a difficult process marked by awkward conversations and the fear of disappointing others. Initially, setting boundaries felt incredibly uncomfortable. I worried about how others would react. Would they think I was being selfish? Would they withdraw their friendship? Would they no longer like me? Would my boss let me go because I had to establish a boundary of knowing when my mental health was being challenged? But the longer I practiced, the more I realized that healthy workplace relationships, they're all built on mutual respect and understanding, not on constant erosion of personal needs. Stepping out of the victim mindset and embracing personal responsibility while also establishing firm boundaries has been incredibly liberating. It hasn't been a magic wand that instantly solved all my problems, but it has empowered me to navigate challenges with more resilience. It has shown me that I'm not passive receptance of life circumstances, but an active participant with the power to shape my own narrative. It is important to note that establishing boundaries isn't about becoming cold or unfeeling. It's about recognizing your own worth and prioritizing your well-being. It's about creating space for healthy relationships to flourish. Remember, relationships built on mutual respect and understanding, rather than on someone being codependent that you are always there for them. You're always going to be there, but set that boundary, never putting yourself in a situation where you jeopardize your physical, emotional, or mental health. The journey from victim to victor isn't linear. There will be setbacks. There's going to be some stumbles along the way. But the key, you want to guess what it is? Keep moving. Keep practicing. Self-awareness, and keep reinforcing. These are vital parts of boundary. It's about recognizing when we're slipping into the easy narrative of victimhood and consciously choosing to reclaim our own power. It's a journey that I'm still on, and one that I suspect many others are navigating as well. The good news is the path to empowerment is always there, waiting for us to take the first step. As you step from victim to victor, I want you to always remember to take accountability. Remember how you respond to situations. Always be proactive, never reactive. You have the power to change your own life. As we close this episode, I would like to thank you for tuning in to the Healing Out Loud podcast. It has been a pleasure to bring you this episode as we continue to take steps towards healing. I want to thank you again for all of your support throughout this journey. Until next time, we say namaste and exhale to the negativity. Thank you for listening.